Folks, welcome into another edition of Bullet Points. I'm one of your hosts today, Kevin Masseri, here with Rob Ryan, Mike Bunt. Awesome show sponsor for you today, Hartman's Distilling Company. Get out there and try one of the best vodkas in town. Slow down, drink up. Right on 55 Chicago Street, right in downtown Buffalo. Couldn't be any better. Mike, what are you sporting down there? You look like you're posing.
It's just I got to get this front and center. We got a sponsor. We got to get them in front of the camera right now. So
awesome, yeah, couldn't be more excited to have Hartman's and at the guys down at Hartman's Distilling Company get down there and check it out. But today we're going to preview the Week 4 matchup against Old Dominion, a team that, quite frankly, UB should take care of, and we're going to talk about that here today. Lots of good notes, nuggets that we can go over. Had a great interview with Coach Mo. Check that out if you haven't already. It's up on our Twitter page. Really great interview there with Coach. Gave us some really good insights about his move to Buffalo, coming back to Buffalo, his opinion on the growth of the program. I asked him a couple of questions about the growth of the program throughout the episode. So get out there and check that one out. But we got a matchup that we got to talk about here, guys. Rob, I'm going to shoot it over to you. Coming off of that, fairly disappointing, but they held in there, covered the spread in a pretty tightly contested game against Coastal Carolina. Coming out of that, Rob, how are you feeling as you head down south to match up with Old Dominion in a game that we're going to get into, Mike, but we're going to get into that about the recruiting side of it shortly. But Rob, how are you feeling about coming off that Coastal game to go into an Old Dominion team?
I'm feeling great. After that Nebraska game, I didn't know how this team was going to fare against the number 16th ranked Coastal Carolina team, but they held their own. It was mostly a one-score game the whole time, so I'm feeling great heading into this weekend into an Old Dominion team who didn't play football last year. They've only have 3 games under the belt in the last 2 years. We're coming off of a 3-point loss against a ranked team in the country. I'm feeling pretty good. It feels good to finally be back to being a favorite in the game after the last 2 weeks of not being a favorite. So I'm feeling really confident going to this weekend.
Yeah, double-digit favorites. Pretty interesting to see. Old Dominion has struggled at times this season as well as in general. Mike, how big of a game? Let's talk about this on a high level right now. How big of, and then we'll start to get into some player matchups, but how big of a game is this for not only UB's record? Sure, going into and out of conference would be great. Set you up for a good run in the MAC. But how big of this is for the future? Talk a little bit about how important this could be for the program, not just on Saturday, but going forward with potential future recruits and what it means to be down there in that area and look good.
Yeah, this is a big game for a variety of reasons. Obviously, you want to get the 500 record in non-conference play, so you don't fall to 1-3 heading into the MAC, and that's a big part. But recruiting plays a huge role in this. There's a guy that writes a lot about UB. His name is Ben Kirst. And he had a good article earlier this week in the recruiting ties of this game that really is something I never really thought of heading into this matchup. He said there's 14 players on this Bulls roster that are from either Washington, D.C., Maryland, or Virginia, with 10 players from the DMV area. Some of the guys that you can name off are James Patterson, George Wolo, Hudson's. But it goes on and on, really, with some of these guys. And you have even Kevin Marks, who's from Norfolk, who will have a homecoming this weekend against Old Dominion. And the reason why that's big is when you have 14 players from an area and you have an Old Dominion team that's a newer FBS program, they realize how big that area is for recruiting. Now, it's kind of an emerging talent area in the last 10, 15 years where there's a lot of big-time talent coming out of the Mid-Atlantic region. So while UB is not going to be going after those 4 or 5-star guys that are coming out of there, they want to get those 3-star guys. They want to compete for players like that. And with a coach like Old Dominion going after that talent now, you're going to have some competition. And if you win games like this, it shows, well, if you're going to go mid-major, maybe I'd choose to go to UB instead of staying home. But these are the games that kind of solidify who wins some of these recruiting battles. So it's the battle off the field that sometimes is just as important as the battle on it.
Yeah, and it's important to mention, important note for us to always remember of recruiting. We'll hopefully get Coach Mo on and get some more recruiting insight about how some of this works. We didn't have a ton of time to talk about that as we're kind of in the heat of the early part of the season. But recruiting is so important. Anyone that follows me knows that I'm particularly interested in recruiting, whether it's football or basketball. I think it's a really important part of mid-major sports. It's how you differentiate yourself from the competition. Yes, you score players like Jarrett Patterson, CJ Massenberg all the time, but recruiting is very important. And to continue to get top end recruits, you've seen it in the UB running back room with some really high talented players who are now showing to be very talented backs behind Marks. So recruiting is super important. And this game goes a pretty, as Mike said, a pretty big way in scoring more recruits. Real quickly, we'll recap Old Dominion right quick. Lost to Wake 42-10 on the road, came back and beat Hampton 47-7. Really the only time that they've scored this season. And then Liberty, they failed to really compete with 45-17 and a pretty lopsided affair in that one. They played okay. I watched a little bit of it in stretches, but really just didn't come out in the second half at all and didn't score any points there. So they really struggled. Mac did not play very well at the quarterback position. And they just didn't have enough offensively to get it done. DJ Mack Jr. went 15 for 27, one touchdown and one interception there for Old Dominion. So it is a team that's limited on offense, Rob. With how well the UB defense has played at times and in stretches, beside a few lapses on the DB spot, and there has been some lapses, but beside that, they played fairly strong run defense. They've been really good at stretches. Had a few quarterback runs that have gotten them a little bit. So like defensively, as you look at this Old Dominion Monarchs team with DJ Mack Jr., Elijah Davis at running back, didn't get a lot going. With the receiving position, they have Zach Kuntz, Jordan Bly, a little bit of Stone Smart, great name. So what would you need to see to kind of wrap all this up, to kind of show those strong stretches that they've had against Nebraska, that they've had against Coastal, and how do you put it all together against Old Dominion?
Yeah, I think it all starts with that defensive line that we have, starting with Taylor Riggins, who's had a great year to start this year. He had a breakout game against Coastal. Scouts have to be looking for him again. But I really think it starts from what I was seeing from the stats. It's their running game that really is their strong suit, just like us. So I think it really starts with that front four that we have. And if they can get to if they can get past their O-line, I don't think Old Dominion is doing much, just because their QB isn't the greatest. The wide receivers aren't the greatest. It's all about the running game at Old Dominion. And if they can't get the running game going, they have no chance.
Yeah, I mean, completely agree. Mike, what do you want to see? We're going to continue to stay on for now, the trend of the UB defense. What would you like to see against Elijah Davis? 31 attempts for 235 yards and 2 touchdowns. DJ Mack, has 32 attempts for 46 yards, 3 touchdowns though. And you've seen a little bit of Hayden Wolf. Don't know if you'll see him at all, if that's just when they're up or what the case was there, but he did throw 24 attempts this season. Has some decent numbers to boot. I don't know what's going to happen there if DJ Mack, if they're in like a timeshare, if that's just like they were up and he's threw for 24 attempts on the season. Do have a good tight end in Zach Kuntz, who scares me. 10 catches for 140 yards and a touchdown. But outside of that, very limited outside of that running back tight end position. Don't have a ton on wide receiver, and they really do not have an established quarterback.
Yeah, I just want to see UB continue doing what they're doing. Defensively, this Bulls team is a very strong unit, which feels a little odd to say because normally in the MAC, you really don't get a lot of top-end defensive teams. But I feel like this unit is just so top-heavy with a lot of good players and a lot of talented seniors. You already brought up Riggins. Honestly, I think it might be time to start bringing up his NFL possibilities. 4 sacks, two forced fumbles already. I don't know if he has the complete package that NFL evaluators are looking for, but Riggins is tearing it up. And this is the second time in 3 years that he's done it. Guys like Mcduffie, Wright, and James Patterson, I think they make up one of the best linebacking duos in the conference. And really in this game, you don't really expect the secondary to really be tested too much. So I think it's kind of what Rob said. Just find a way to contain the Old Dominion running attack. Their top 2 guys, Davis and Peaker, are averaging about 7 yards per carry combined. So they do find a way to get some lanes and generate some good runs. But their quarterback play has been abysmal this year. They got the Central Florida transfer, DJ Mack Jr., who they were probably pretty excited about getting when he decided to transfer to Old Dominion. But his completion percentage is under 50% right now. It's been a mess. some of that might be some of the competition and not playing last year. Liberty, as UB fans know, is not an easy team to go up against, and Wake Forest is off to a hot start and actually could be a top 25 team the way that they're playing. But still, UB has played much tougher competition, I believe, in my opinion, and they've had better results so far. So this is really a team that they're limited offensively, and UB's defense should be able to hold them in check if they come out and play the way they have through 3 weeks.
Yeah, and that's well said, Mike. You have Sam Hartman, who absolutely tore him up. Good quarterback prospect there in Wake Forest. Still a sophomore, Sam Hartman. He's played for 4 years. I'm not really sure about the eligibility there, but he's been pretty good and absolutely torched him. Now, I'm not saying KVT is anywhere near Sam Hartman's talent level, but UB should find some room on this defense. It hasn't played particularly well. They've been okay in stretches. Let's switch to the other side of the ball now and keys to the matchup, which would be the UB offense and how they can handle this Old Dominion defense, when I think there's a lot of plus matchups here, Rob. Are you thinking run heavy? Are you thinking the three-headed running back monster? Are you thinking getting some of those short passes going and stretches against Coastal when they were stagnant? They weren't moving the ball at all, missing some throws. I really thought they had to throw a little bit more. They got it going a little bit in the second half. But Rob, what are you thinking as you look at this Old Dominion team? Sam Hartman ripped them up in the air. Are you thinking UB can compete that way? Or are you thinking let's go back to running the ball?
Yeah, I think they're going to be running the ball, but I've been saying since the beginning, I want to see the passing game going. I don't think we get through the MAC without the passing game. Both times we made to the MAC championship, we got it through running, and we were down first when we were up, but the second one we were down and we had no passing game to boot to do anything. So I think they're going to do the three-headed running game, but I think they have to get some passing game going before they go into a very difficult MAC schedule when they play a lot of MAC West teams this year.
Yeah, and they need to throw the ball better. As good as their running game can be in stretches, I need to see them throw the ball. I need to see Kyle Van Treese be a little bit better. 61% completion percentage on the year, 55 for 89, 601 yards, only one touchdown, guys. One touchdown through 3 weeks.
And it was the first play of the game.
It was the first play of the game.
Season.
I'd like to see a little bit more there. I'm not sitting here saying I want 10 touchdowns. I don't want to see 10,000 yards. Do need a little bit more out of that, guys. So that's something to kind of remember. But, Mike, you look at Kevin Marks Jr., who is only rushing at a 4-yard per clip average, 220 yards rushing with 3 touchdowns. You got Ron Cook Jr. behind him, 7.6 yards a carry, 24 attempts. And you have Dylan Mcduffie, a guy that, UB fans are just getting to know, for 165 yards, 6.3 yards a clip and 3 touchdowns there as well. As I mentioned earlier on the show, Mike, some highly recruited guys in Ron Cook Jr. and Dylan Mcduffie, some guys who, scored pretty well. Ron Cook's from Washington, D.C., an aforementioned, player down there. And, Dylan McDuffie's from Buffalo, but some guys that scored some pretty big, recruiting profiles for a mid-major guy. Are you on board with this three-headed monster right now? Do you want to see more carries allocated from Marks down the chain? You think they're doing good at it? Do you want to see a little bit more Keon Williams, Dominic Johnson, Giovanni Ruiz? Tell me about it, Mike. What do you think the Old Dominion game needs?
I'm perfect with the three-headed monster at running back. I went into the year expecting Kevin Marks to get a larger percentage of the carries, but as long as he's not performing the best of the three, I don't think there's any reason to make him get a significant more amount of the carries than the rest of them. Dylan Mcduffie has been far and away the most impressive running back on this roster through 3 weeks. He's been getting consistent yardage the most often of the three, and he's been playing very well. Ron Cook Jr., he has been playing decently as well. His stats a little bit off because of that big run against Coastal Carolina last week. That was kind of a fluky play. And Kevin Marks, 4 yards a carry, you're not going to complain about it, but you'd want a little bit more. He gets a ton of carries, so it's going to be a little bit harder to have that 6-7 yards per carry. But you want to see the number go up a little bit higher, maybe around 5.5. I'd feel a little bit better about that. Overall, as far as passing it, I'm not really too worried about the passing attack. In time, I want the Bulls to open things up. I want them to try to get a more balanced attack. But I just don't think that's going to happen this year. You know why you have a Kyle Van Treese at quarterback. You have him at quarterback because you want to play safe, smart football, let your offensive line take care of business, and let your defense hold down opponents. And that's what you're going to do with Kyle Van Treese. He's a safe quarterback. He's a game manager. That's not to take away from him, but he's not the greatest athlete in the world, and he doesn't have the greatest arm strength to make all the throws that you want out of a quarterback. So you are a little bit limited, and I honestly don't know if the Bills, oh my goodness, the Bulls' weapons are really at the level where they can expose other top-end talent. Now, come MAC play, I expect things to change, and maybe this is the week that it starts to change. When you start playing inferior competition that you can actually start to exploit. The last 2 weeks, you had to run it. There is no way that you're going to be able to exploit some of these teams. But maybe this is the matchup we start to go to the air more. I think Keon Williams looked strong early in the game, early in the year. And I think Dominic Johnson has shown some flashes as well. If they don't get it going in the next 2 weeks, though, honestly, I wouldn't be mad at it because honestly, I think this UB team can run over the majority of the teams that they'll play in the MAC. So is it concerning? Yes. But is it the end of the world? No, because I think in time, Coach Mo is eventually going to open things up. Probably not this year, but in the upcoming years.
Yeah, and completely, agree. I'm going to get into why I think they have some ability to throw the ball here in a moment, but have to take a time to mention Hartman's Distilling. Get out there, 55 Chicago Street, downtown Buffalo. Some great products, a really nice tap room and bar. I mean, it's phenomenal in there. Get out to Hartman's and try everything that they have to offer today. Once again, that Loganberry vodka looks great. You're tempting me with that, Mike. Slow down and drink up.
Look at this. We only have 3 right now because
we have a missing seltzer on hand, guys.
Yeah,
we have a missing
my wife
seltzer.
is watching the football game, drinking one of these while I'm doing a podcast. So who's having more fun?
We'll be there shortly, Mike. However, I have to mention why I think that they can throw the ball a little bit. Keon Williams has been a nice surprise for me. I'm pretty critical of the throwing game of UB, but I think Keon's been a nice addition. I was worried about who might show up as wide receiver 1. Quite frankly, he had 76 catches at EMU, a team that, historically hasn't been great lately. So it's really cool to see him come over and really start to play really well, averaging 14 yards a catch, which will get it done here in the MAC, and already has 15 catches. It was really on a 90-yard streak until a Coastal Carolina game last week, only catching 2 for 23. And I'm not really quite sure about the health of Giovanni Ruiz, but once again, a guy that's oft injured. I'd like to see his health, shine through and really be a dominant force here for UB. We were always on the show saying, do we even know if Ruiz is suiting up? Kind of in that same boat again here today, guys. But I want to see him be a nice complement to this passing game. Like we've already mentioned, Dom Johnson and Keon Williams. They don't throw to their backs. Their tight ends are particularly a lot for a running team. So we need to see those 3 receivers really begin to show out.
And Kev, I want to say something quick. Sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
It's not like this is an easy transition for Van Treese in the passing game too. That was the one area where this offense was hit the hardest outside of the offensive line. Yep. Losing Antonio Nunn is just a massive loss. I don't think he ever really got the appreciation for what he truly brought to this UB offense. And to have Trevor Wilson, he was a developing young talent who really probably could have exploited the MAC this year. And even Zach LaFave, you had a tight end target. To have him transfer to Western Kentucky, those are 3 pretty good targets to lose. And even though this was a very run-heavy team last year, to have arguably, I would say, the 3 best targets on your team all leave, it kind of made things even tougher than what it would have already been for this offense trying to go in the air.
Yeah, and you saw they never were able to rebound from KJ Osborne either, who's now a really legitimate NFL receiver going to Miami. So, is that mold kind of set where you come in, pay your dues, play on a running team, get some D1 snaps, show some talent, and then go to a D1 high division program? We'll see. We hope not. But, we do need to see more out of this throwing game. I thought Matt Myers' ability to come in and run was interesting. So I'm interested to see if that's a thing. 3 carries for 14 yards and a touch. I'm interested to see if that comes to play at some point during the season where, I was watching the game with some casual fans and they were like, does UB run the ball at the quarterback position like so many college teams do? And I'm thinking about it, like they really do not. They really don't, and we haven't really seen that much. For as much as they run the ball and how dynamic they could be and how many zone reads the quarterback could run, they don't have that threat. So we'll see if that comes into play here in MAC play, or if they just continue to play, straight up.
Also, that third down play, I think it was a third down play where Myers tried to go deep. I've seen that at practice a few times, and they're pretty effective with that play. You almost wonder, are they trying to slowly bring Myers into this offense so when Van Treese does step aside that he'll be ready to go, or say, God forbid, an injury happens, that they can keep things going? Because it looks like when Myers is in the game, they have a little bit different take on how they want to run things offensively, which I find pretty interesting. The big question would be there, why do they hold back when Van Treese is in the game? So is it a risk reward thing where they don't want to risk turning it over? And you got to wonder how much longer they'll be willing to stick it out that way.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm always so confused with eligibility right now with COVID. Like, I know Van Treese is a senior. Is he a senior? Is he like a fake senior? Like, I don't even know.
He's a redshirt senior.
Okay, so
he
he's
redshirted
done.
his sophomore. No, unless they get that extra year of eligibility, so he may be back.
Confused. It's so confusing. Yeah, I'm usually really good with the eligibility thing, but as of last year, like I'm so thrown off. Like how long you can go and not lose a year, and like I don't like it. Some does that run out? Like basketball has way too many scholarships. It's really confusing. Like I'm usually on top of it, but it's kind of confusing right now. And then you have Matt Myers, a junior. Is he really a sophomore, guys? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't understand like the COVID rules right now. So
whatever he was last year. So last year would have been his sophomore. Well, yeah, I believe he'd be considered. It's so confusing. Like, for example, Curtis Rourke is a freshman at Ohio. It's his third year. So
yeah, exactly. It doesn't make any sense.
I would think that Myers would be a sophomore.
Well, but they list Sam Hartman as a sophomore, and he's played for like 17 years.
Wasn't Myers Myers was a redshirt freshman in 2019, right?
Right.
So then he would have been a redshirt sophomore.
No, he played in 2019.
What?
He started the year in 2019.
Yeah. But he was I believe he was a redshirt freshman eligibility wise. Didn't he come to UB in 2018?
Yeah. Yep, you're right.
So redshirt freshman 2019. Redshirt sophomore 2020, keeps that year of eligibility. So he's a fourth year.
He played as a redshirt freshman, correct? So yes, he would be a redshirt sophomore technically right now. And then we're getting into specifics here, but it does matter for kind of the future. Like, and then KVT, does he get the extra year? So I'm not sure what that progression is here as a redshirt senior already. Will he move on? Will he grad transfer? What happens there?
It's a mess.
But you're right. It's a mess. And then Trevor Baczynski's there. They have some quarterback 3-star recruits in the fold, in the mix, some stuff going on there. So there's a lot that can happen at that quarterback position. And I like the safe play of KVT right now, but I'd like to see a little bit more dynamic play out of the quarterback position at some point soon. Whether it's this year or not remains to be seen. We'll get into that in future episodes. Maybe we'll do a little bit of recruiting stuff as the kind of close toward the bowl season, but got to go with keys of the matchup. And then before we get into score predictions, so we can get out of here and watch this great 7-0 Carolina Panthers versus Houston Texans game as we approach halftime there. So, Rob, we're going to start with you. Keys to the game and, both on offense and defense, what would you like to see for UB to be successful?
To be successful, they got to just do the running game. But for my well-being and to have a good spirit going into the MAC, I got to see the passing game. I know we've been talking about the whole show, but it's just we have to see it. The run game can take you so far. You don't. Yes, you have the 3-headed monster room there, but you don't have a Jared Patterson anymore. You can't just do it a whole game and know you're going to come out victorious every game. So you need to see the passing. I don't think we're going to see it. I think the running game will win you this game. But for that, and then defense, it's all about that front four. If you can contain the running backs, I don't think they could do much.
Mike, thoughts?
Like I said earlier, just ground and pound.
Mike's all over the ground and pound. Okay.
I'm not even a running fan. Like, to be honest, I'm more of a fan of what the Bills do with spreading teams out 4 wide, have a mobile quarterback and kind of just attack, and always have defense on their feet. But
well, the college program's totally opposite here in this city,
yeah,
so
but
they do kind of play a lot differently. Defensively, Mike, how about?
UB just doesn't have the ability to do that. And I look for Kevin Marks to tear it up in his homecoming. Defensively, honestly, I don't think this Old Dominion team really has the offense to really exploit you. So I want them to be aggressive.
Yeah.
Stack the box, stop the run, make that quarterback prove that he can beat you in the air. Because if you're only completing 47% of your passes, I don't really know if you're really that much of a quarterback to begin with. And I might end up biting my lip after this game. But this Old Dominion team didn't play last year. In 2019, they went 1-11, and a lot of people had them in their bottom 10 list entering this season. For a list that UB fans used to be all too familiar with in the past. This is the type of game that if UB is a top 70 program now and a MAC contender, you take care of business. I want to see UB do that this Saturday evening.
Okay, fair points, Mike. I'll get to my keys of the game and then right before some score predictions. I think this is a perfect game going into MAC play to kind of see what you have on the passing game. If it gets late and you're struggling, maybe Mike's strategy of going to ground and pound makes sense and be like, we got to get the W, so we got to play a little bit better. I'm fine with that, but I'd like to see some creativity on offense. I don't want to see 3 runs up the middle and punt. They struggle in special teams still, in my opinion. I got to be fair. They struggled there. Punts are going 35 yards. It's been a struggle for them pretty much this season. So I don't think you can rely on that field position game right now as this program plays. I think you need to spread it out. I think you need to get your quarterback comfortable. You need to use your weapons and show the MAC that you can do something other than run the ball in those games that Rob was mentioning, having no propensity to be able to. The reason they got down 23 is they couldn't throw the ball. That game's a lot closer if they could move the ball in the air, not just because you score points in the air, because they would be moving the ball more efficiently, keeping Nebraska off the field and getting your defense and some rest, but they just couldn't move the ball on the ground. They couldn't move the ball in the air. That's what happened in Nebraska. I want to see that passing game show up. I think it needs to show up to really beat those MAC West teams and to finally bring home the title in something that they had, the elusive title, and something they haven't been able to do in Detroit in many, 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 many years now. I'm struggling there in those losses. New regime, new coaching staff, different day for that. Defensively, be aggressive, run blitz, come after it. Your defensive backs have struggled at times. Let's be honest, but still leave them one-on-one against these weapons. You're not going against Nebraska. You're not going against Coastal. Make their receivers make plays, come after, run blitz, bring after them all day. I want to see an aggressive game plan here. That is the keys to this game already. Score predictions. We're going to start with Rob, Mike, and then myself. Rob, what do you got?
I think this is UB all the way. I think whatever team we're playing, Old Dominion is going to get maybe touchdown or two late.
Wow, whatever team we're playing. Okay.
I think Old Dominion is going to just get a touchdown or two in garbage time. I'm going with a 38-17 UB victory.
38. So they're covering the spread. Okay. Is that the over? 38-17?
Yeah, the over is 52.
Is it 52 now? Okay. Mike, what do you got?
I'm close to Rob. I have UB winning this one 38-24. And I'll also have Ty B, Degenerate Al, and Maniacs predictions in our preview video that will be airing tomorrow on Bullet Points. So keep an eye out for that.
And I surprisingly, just of the road game, I think that they'll put up some fight. Old Dominion has been okay they had a good win for once. I mean, a Big South team, it's nothing you write home about, but it is big for their program. But I still have a 28-17 victory for UB. I have them just narrowly not covering. I do think that they'll maybe score a garbage time touchdown as we've mentioned here. But playing on the road, I can't fully predict them to go over 28 at this time. They've kind of been around there all season, except for obviously the blowout. But the other two games, I don't know that Old Dominion has that defense, but I don't feel great about getting the 30s for some reason. So that's why I'm barely narrowing, not having them cover. So that's where I'm at. I just don't think Old Dominion quite scores enough to really give it a threat anyways. I have them at 45 points. So that's, I guess, right on the under. So life's too young to take the under, as Greg Sampsets taught me. But guys, that's about it for this show. We're getting in the 2-minute drill right now in the Thursday night football game. Appreciate everybody coming out here, watching this Bullet Point show. tune it up on Saturday morning. If if you're catching us late, we still love for you to give us some opinions and some thoughts. Nice comment. Thanks, Mike, for shining some light on Taylor Riggins. I think the national media has forgotten. So
he deserves it.
Yeah, he definitely deserves it. He's been a talent NFL draft player, in my opinion, in the mold of a Malcolm Kuntz. So really great that he's had that opportunity. So we're really pretty pumped about that and his play so far. But like I said, enjoy this episode if you have to. Watch the Coach Mo episode. This has been brought to you by new show sponsor, Hartman's Distilling. Get out there, 55 Chicago Street, right near the Sabre Stadium. So get out there, enjoy it. Really it's a great area too in terms of, lots of stuff to do. You can go up to Canal Side if you want after or before. So get out there to Hartman's and try some of that awesome Buffalo style Loganberry vodka seltzer and that Loganberry vodka. But that's going to do it for us here on this edition. I'm Kevin, Rob, Mike. Tune in next week for our pregame shows. And as always, good night now.